So, hello everybody. Yeah, I think it's going to go quite a different route now. I feel like I'm kind of the comic relief somewhat to shift things along. It's pretty much as distant as you can possibly be from Expedia, especially because I'm going to be using GIFs, which is going to at least wake you up. This is me when I first learned how to make my own GIFs. It's a very important moment in my life. I'm the founder of Eco Companion. So Eco Companion, our mission is to create a place for nature in tomorrow's world through the power of ecotourism. It's a dream which I think has been around for a while, but no one's really kind of executed it well enough. So I think this is the mission for the business ahead of us. I'm going to be talking about my journey in an extremely kind of honest way. You're going to be seeing a very personal story about my life. And the GIFs we're going to be trying to put across the emotions that I felt in each of those moments, which maybe I don't want to portray myself in the moment. Like this guy, very enthusiastic. So, from my hippie beginnings, this was right at the start. This was there's a reason why I'm going to be explaining this part of it, is really that my background, I think, made me who I am, and decided what I ended up doing for my own business. So it's important to remember where I came from. And in particular, where I came from was a school called St. Christopher's School, which was started by Quakers. We had no uniforms. It was vegetarian, called our teachers by their first names. We had worm pits to recycle the food waste. We did everything you can possibly imagine. Basically, a bit of a hippie background. And as I say, I'll explain why that's actually important to any of you later in the process. After that, I went to university. I had an absolutely great time. I left university pumped. I was excited. The world was my oyster. There was so much opportunity ahead of me. How was I going to impact the world? There was everything ahead of me. So then I got my first job. I started at Woucher, which some of you may know. You might know it more for mattresses or all kinds of their strange products, but they also did travel deals. And it's my fault that there was £99 Barcelona city breaks, which some of you may have been had to try and experience. I then moved on to Travelzoo, which was another amazing experience for me. It taught me a huge amount because with Travelzoo in particular, it's such an experienced team that I was surrounded by. So I got to learn a much kind of broader angle on the tourism industry as a whole and understand how all the different kind of pieces of it fit together, because it is such an elaborately complicated industry. And I think the key thing from both of them that I learned, this is a great quote, always be closing, is the importance of sales. So for anyone starting a business, sales is so crucial to be able to sell to investors, sell to clients to bring them on board to your website, and selling to travelers themselves to book them into a holiday. Though for some reason I was just never quite satisfied. So I gained a lot of confidence through my upbringing, and so I always felt like I should push the boat out further and really push myself to chase the kind of bigger visions and the bigger dreams and the bigger impact, to be honest, that I wanted to deliver to the world. So I decided to start my own business, which everybody knows is one of the most stupid things and one of the best things you could ever do in your life. And you might be surprised at the business that I chose to try and start. So actually it wasn't Eco Companion at first, it was thebucketlist.com. Thebucketlist.com was, I thought, an amazing idea. So we were basically going to help everyone fulfill their bucket list dreams. So these kind of massive aspirational trips. And so this was really exciting. So at this point, one of my friends from university, I think we met at World Travel Markets actually, a good few years back now. And I told him about the idea, we got really excited, so we decided to try and charge forward together, starting thebucketlist.com. But thebucketlist.org appeared. We went onto Google page 2 and discovered an Australian company at the time that had already created this vision in my head brilliantly. So it's not like you can necessarily not do an idea just because someone else has tried to do it, but they had actually done it very well. They had already had 800,000 members, they were a very established brand, and honestly, the wireframes I had in my head of how the website would look was just counter, it was perfect, basically. So, so I had to think again. So this was our first big setback. So we got thinking, me and my friend, we started to think about what were our experiences over the years, what could he deliver, what could I bring to the table, and ultimately we came up with Eco Companion. So this is when we originally started up with this is the very first wireframe that we ever created. You can see it's quite different. Actually, you probably haven't seen Eco Companion yet, most of you, but it's very different, I'll tell you. the logo in particular, although I would say that it's quite an attractive homepage at least. So then you have to think what to do first. So we got to work, basically. We came up with our kind of MVP, the minimum viable product, which you might have heard of from the Lean Startups, great book, and which is really about allowing people to have products be put onto the website, people to be able to search through that product, and then ultimately send an inquiry to go onto that operator. So we were really just a listing site, a kind of aggregator for all of the world of ecotourism. And at this point as well, I quit my job. So this is when it gets particularly personal. This is literally my home desk, which I created for myself the next day after I quit Travelzoo to go full-time at this. Obviously, far too many Mac products, because that's what you have to do when you start a company. This is my motivational, cliche motivation wall, which has KPIs like this one. So this was right near the beginning. Luckily, it's not last week or something, because that'd be a bit depressing, I think. 3 inquiries, 3 companies signed up, the amount of experiences added, and the numbers of travelers. I think if you can count the number of travelers with pins, then it's still quite early days. Luckily, it's not. It's a bit bigger than that now. So we got our kind of first taste of growth. So this GIF in particular, I actually made this to celebrate our very first sale. So it was the first time we ever made revenue, and obviously I had to tell my team about it across Slack. So this is literally the exact moment I had just made my first sale for my startup. You can tell I'm somewhat enjoying it. But after about 6 to 9 months, ultimately the business model that we started out with, this kind of aggregator, it just wasn't really hitting the mark. We ultimately, the sales stalled, the relationships didn't carry on for long enough. So actually in the end, the initial web developer that we brought on, he decided he didn't think the idea had legs. My other partner from university, he already had an existing business, so ultimately didn't have the time to contribute anymore. So I was left on my own. I was a one-man wolf pack. So this was the first kind of really big, painful low of the kind of startup roller coaster journey. The other painful bit was I was pretty much just like this little boy, where we also realized the kind of financial situation. So I'd gone from, I was in sales, I somewhat briefly mentioned that, at Woucher and Travelzoo, and obviously us salespeople aren't exactly well known for our financial intelligence. So I basically had gone from a very successful corporate travel career, sales career, across to a startup career. So from a decent salary to a salary of naught, very efficiently. And so I had to move home. And this was really what I like to, I've kind of coined the term, the grand gesture. So the grand gesture is essentially something I think that everyone who wants to start a company has to go through. So you can't, unless you're very, very lucky, or you have some big clients or something, you aren't likely to be able to keep the quality of life that you hope for when you leave a corporate career and try and start your own business. So I, if anything, see it as like a rite of passage that you have to drop your life standards basically, and have less, enjoy less, and accept less, so that you can ultimately kind of start from this ground zero and work your way up again from nothing. So on the left side, this was me coming home. I moved home 5 days after my birthday, so this was from when I was a kid actually. My mum kept the birthday celebration things. That's one nice thing. And on the right, this is me at Domino's. So again, I was quite happy to pose for this, because I was like, I'll put it as the front cover of my book later in life when I become a success again. I was working like 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. every single day. I'd fall asleep 9:30, 10 o'clock, just repeat basically. And then Fridays and Saturday evenings, I'd be working 4 in the afternoon until 10 in the evening. I wouldn't have a day off. It was just non-stop. I was making £400 a month, basically, which was £50 a week for food. There was no going out. There was no nothing. My life was this business and the sacrifices it deserved. But there was light at the end of the tunnel. This isn't a sob story, don't worry. I ultimately decided I needed to learn some new skill sets in particular, so I went to General Assembly and did a digital marketing course, and I started to meet some really interesting people around the kind of growth hacking community. So in particular, near the beginning, Twitter. I just started killing it on Twitter. Most of you I've probably tweeted at some point. We had huge amounts of Twitter accounts running in a massive kind of scale, delivering tens of thousands of people to our website for less than £50 a month. It's an extremely efficient system which just laughs in the face of, to be honest, most paid advertising if you can set it up in an intelligent way. And there's obviously a lot of bad advertising through this kind of system as well, like when someone says to you, like, go look at my website, instead of some kind of personable content which is going to relate to you. In the same way as paid advertising, there's good and bad versions of it. So all of this led to us gaining investment. So this is a picture of us celebrating when we finally got the stuff signed off with the cheapest bottle of champagne that they had, but it still counts. And this was obviously an amazing moment for us, a real pinnacle for getting some kind of validation. We got this through a company called Startup Funding Club, which is a great angel syndicate who are very good at what they do, because they don't just give you investment, but you meet some really interesting angel investors who really do support you very well along your journey for the big decisions. So then we started to expand quickly, a little bit too much like this guy though. So ultimately, I think the problem with founders is that, or problem and the reason you have to have this, but we believe so passionately in our mission, and we believe we're so sure that what we're doing has so much value, and we're going to grow at all these ridiculous rates. Like, we don't just put them in the graphs, we really do believe that we are going to be billionaires and the biggest business in the whole of the travel industry within no time at all. So you overinvest, I think, is one of the most common things that founders do in the early days of running a startup. You believe that every pound you spend, you're going to get more back because your business is going to be so profitable. So this is the next second low. I ultimately spent this money far too quickly, and got to my kind of second lowest point of my journey starting this business, which was, I felt like I'd failed the business, I'd overspent, I'd wasted all of this money, and we weren't a profitable business. We hadn't hit the marks that we were hoping for. So then we had to kind of go back from the beginning. So I had to pause and think, do I even care about this business? Why does it exist? What's the whole point of this? As everyone knows, you don't start a business to become rich. You start a business based on the why. So a guy called Simon Sinek, who some of you may know, Start With Why, is an amazing book. And this is Eco Companion's why. So we exist to create a place for nature in tomorrow's world through the power of ecotourism. So it's an extremely powerful message, because in my head, when I read that, I can see the future. I can see this kind of metropolis, beautiful world with all these crazy technologies everybody's talking about, but I can see it set within this beautiful natural world as well, that the African landscape still exists in itself. Like, that is in question. That is not a certainty that these places will still exist in the future, unless there is business and generally a movement towards protecting them. And from this, it has gone in the right direction. Lots of enthusiastic, happy gifts to finish this. We have a great team now. We are growing very efficiently. We've adjusted the business model around a kind of different approach of this much more of a bespoke, classic kind of travel agent, tour operator business model, where we look to really hold the hand of people who are trying to experience nature, because ultimately it is quite a scary thing sometimes, wandering off into the Amazon jungle, meeting the locals. So, 5 kind of key quick takeaways for you. Some of these will be more relevant for those people who have ideas of their own startups, others for big business. I'm going to come in and save your day. Firstly, fill your team with rock stars and rising stars. I like these terms because they really sum it up. Rock stars are these people with huge amounts of experience who come in, lead from the front, because they're just such, they understand the industry and they can help you in these big decisions. So it's like, for example, when we were in the wrong business model. So how could I recognize that? That was because of the people I had, the advisors I had, who helped me to recognize the flaw in the overarching kind of business model. And then the rising stars are just as key, because they do the grunt work alongside you. Like, obviously us founders have to do most of the grunt work, but you need those people who just believe passionately in your why, so that they work for the kind of slave labor rates that you have to work for to try and actually get all of this huge amount of work done that needs to be for a startup. Number 2, growth hacking and social media equal less barriers to entry. So it's the combination of these, of social media as a whole. Everybody knows it's super important, but it's combining social media with these innovative growth hacking techniques that allow for far better returns on investment. So it's the difference between putting a Facebook advert on and for £1 a click, but you know that you can get £1.20 back, or it's a penny a click and you can get £1.20 back. It's just a completely different game when you when you play the system. Like I was very kindly won an award, and the way they described me was that I use and abuse social media networks. That's the way I treat them. So I feel like sometimes it's nice because Facebook's always, everyone feels like Facebook's trying to ruin us, so, or like take more money out of us, so you have to fight back sometimes. And Instagram is the hot new channel. So one of the ways I've managed to stay alive is that I built an entire Instagram consultancy alongside my main business of Eco Companion. And Instagram really is the hot topic of the year. Like everybody knows it, to be honest, or they keep hearing about it, how important it is. But to put it in perspective a little bit, Facebook has around 2 billion users, Instagram has around 700 million, I think it is, Twitter's about 330, Snapchat's about 300 million. Instagram's going to be up 1 billion by the end of the year, I think it's still around projected, and ultimately it's part of the Facebook family, so it's not going anywhere. Twitter, Snapchat, any of the others have to compete with Facebook. They're not competing, like it's just such a different game now that Facebook owns them. And one of the other key things is everyone thinks that you can't convert from Instagram, but Instagram stories, swipe up to go on to whatever it is you're doing is unbelievably powerful, and you can drive huge amounts of traffic from that. So it's changed now. It is a return. You can get conversion from Instagram. Social media can deliver a positive impact. I think this is one of the things that when I talk to people a lot, obviously with my Instagram consulting stuff especially, they're always saying to me, oh, I don't want to be big on Instagram because it's just vain. It's people who want to look pretty and post pictures of their dinner or whatever it is. And it's got a very negative light. And Facebook as well, people spend too much time on it. It portrays too beautiful of an image of people, so people feel like they're never good enough and all of these things. That's like very much a serious problem that we need to take into consideration. Like there's a study by Harvard, I think it was, that's basically exactly proved that people are less happy if they spend more time on Facebook. Like that's a really horrible stat, isn't it? When all of us are probably likely to be addicted to it in this room. But I think using it in the right way, and like, so the difference between posting like Kim Kardashian's selfie against posting the beautiful story of somebody sat with a Borneo, like in the, like, I don't know, with an orangutan, and they're literally making a difference in that moment to try and protect the region in Borneo, for example, from deforestation. Like that's an entirely different thing. That is spreading a powerful, positive message for a positive change to the world. So it's how we use this tool of social media, I think, is really how you look at it. So it doesn't have to be a negative thing, but it's good, obviously, we're considering that as well. And lastly, start with the why when considering a new business. So very often, I think, like when I said, when we were thinking about what business to start, we were thinking about what was our experience, or say I was a salesperson, so maybe I should go start a sales agency or whatever it might be. But you should also think about your values, like what do you actually really care about in life? What is it that you think should happen, and what problems in the world do you want to try and solve? And that's what you should consider, as well as all of these other things, because that's what will allow you, not necessarily to have to deliver pizzas, but stuff like that you might have to do, and you can get through it. You can take that pain because you believe so passionately in your why. This is from my mother. You will not do incredible things without an incredible dream. And I'll finish on that. Thank you very much.